So in this tutorial, we're going to create a Hello World app in Summit. And as you can see, I already have a few models in this account, but we're going to start from scratch, assuming we know nothing about Summit and how it works. And we're going to build a model by clicking up here where it says start from scratch. And this will load up a blank slate, a blank canvas, actually. And we're going to start by double clicking and creating what's called an event. And an event is it's a step in a flow, and we're going to give it a name, and this will be our greeting. And we will go ahead and hit the letter E on the keyboard for edit. That jumps us up here. It's a nice keyboard shortcut. And we're going to turn this into a string, which is a greeting, and it's going to say "Hello World!" exclamation point. And that's it. So we create a string, it says "Hello World." But now that it's in here, we need to somehow get this to come back to us when we call it. So every model in Summit has an API once you publish it, once you set it live. And if we want this one to respond with this greeting, we need to use what's called a response event. So for the first time, we're going to look on the left-hand side here, and we're going to grab the second one, which has add response data. We're going to click it. It shows a little ghost-like image of wherever we want to place it. We can place it anywhere. It doesn't matter. But we'll just place it here to the right-hand side. And to get this greeting to be returned in the response, all we have to do is click this on the right here, this arrow, drop it, and that's all it takes. So we're sending this data, hello world string, to the response. And as you can see on the bottom here, we have a greeting and a response. This is what's called the grid view. But for this purposes, we want to look at the data view. And we can see that it says foo hello world. Now, the reason it says foo is that this is defined in the response. Whenever you respond with something, you have to decide where you want to put this greeting. So in this case, we just use the default that came on the left-hand side here, which gave us the word foo as the attribute. We're going to change that to something a little bit more sensible. So I'm going to go up here to where it says foo. I'm going to double click, and I'll change this to say greeting. And that's it. So what we can do is we can publish this by clicking set live at the top right. This will say this will allow your model to be run over the web. That sounds good. Click next. And all we have to do now is go under connectivity here, and it says API. And this says connect from anywhere. Use these endpoints to run your model and retrieve data using a HTTP request. To do so, we need an API key. So we can come in here and look at our list of API keys. This one has a bunch. I can create a new key if I want to. Make sure you turn on run access. And we'll give this a name. We'll just call this test. Add new API key. And then I will come back to that model right here. And now back under API, I can call this endpoint and get this greeting back by using this endpoint here, which is fully written out for me. All I have to do is click copy. And then here's the method, which is called post. Now, if you're not a developer, that's okay. You don't have to be. You can also connect to this model using Zapier, HubSpot, Clay, and an increasing number of other tools. But this is how we can build and publish a model using Summit. I would like to show one more thing here, which is this would be a lot more useful if we, instead of saying world, could say something else. And so if you have one more minute, let's take a look at how we can create a parameter, which is an argument to this model, by adding one more string. And we're also going to look at something called liquid syntax, which you might know from other tools like Shopify or Customer.io or your favorite no-code tool, where you can use what's called liquid syntax to compose text and put in variables. So we're going to call this name, because maybe this is the name of someone that we want to say hello to. This is also going to be a string, and we'll go ahead and put in my name, which is Matt. And we will put this tag here, it's called, with this less than name greater than symbol, just like an HTML tag. And this turns whatever's in front of it, in this case, this string Matt, into what's called a model parameter, meaning it's a argument or variable to the model that we can use when we call it. And I'll show you how that works in a second. But now that this is here, we need to get it into our greeting somehow. So this is where we can use liquid syntax to replace world with name. So we just type in the name of the other event, which in this case is this bold text here, name. And if we do this, you can see it says 0. Now, this is an important lesson. The reason it says 0 is that when this greeting runs, this name hasn't finished running yet. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the name runs before the greeting runs. And to do that, we can use our arrow again and say name should run first, then greeting, then response. And sure enough, now you can see where it says hello Matt because we made sure that name exists before we ran the greeting. And I can move these around. The arrows will just automatically move around the screen as well. And so there's my flow. Now, because I turn this into a argument to the model called the model parameter using this tag, I can now set this live and we can see some changes to the API. So we're going to go back to the API tab over here on the left, and you can see how now this says parameters Matt. So when I call this over API and I pass this in as the body, I can choose any name I want to externally, pass it in, and the data that comes back will be that greeting with the name. So obviously, a silly model doesn't have a ton of real world value, but in terms of understanding how Summit works, how you can create models that are APIs, and how you can use that to add variables, I hope this was helpful. And we'll continue with more advanced things, much more interesting things next. Thanks for watching.